trip. I want to talk a little bit about Rotary and then I'll talk about polio, because I think it's important you be kept up to date with polio, which is our most significant global initiative. I want to talk about how the office in Parramatta can maybe help you do better at the things you do, and other bits and pieces, I call it, of Rotary in Australia that maybe you didn't know. We have 7 offices in the world. There are 7 international offices that are servicing the needs of Rotarians and districts and clubs throughout the world. The first one was in Zurich, which covers all of Europe and all of Africa. A big area to cover. A fair bit of travel involved in that one. We have one in Delhi, which covers the Southeast Asia. We have one in Japan and Korea, which are language specific and cover those 2 countries. We have our own office in Parramatta that covers the Pacific, the Philippines and Australia and New Zealand and Timor. And then we have offices in Argentina and Brazil, which are again Spanish and Portuguese specific, language specific. So the 7 offices, and plus Evanston in the USA, which rules the world. We try and stop them, but they keep trying. So this is our patch. It's a pretty big area that we've got to cover. It's not as big as Zurich's, but we got more water in our area than Zurich have got in theirs, and there is an awful lot of water in our territory. We go out to Tahiti, never get there, of course, in spite of my wishes. I never get to talk at the Papeti Club. That is handled by a district in New Zealand, and they manage that. I have been there on holidays from time to time, and I do take the opportunity to catch up. This is how Rotarians, there's 62,000 Rotarians in our area. 53% come from Australia, which is the dominant figure of that number. Philippines from the 31, 15% from New Zealand, and 1% from all those Pacific islands. So you can see that it's basically an Australian or an ANZAC Philippines operation. The growth of Rotary is coming strongly in the Philippines, not so strongly in Australia. What's what and who's who, what we are and what we're not. We're Rotary International, we're the Rotary Foundation, we're the Australian Rotary Foundation Trust, which is an associate foundation of Rotary Foundation. That gives us tax deductibility. We're not Rotary Down Under, that's a magazine that's licensed to a company that has the rights to produce a regional magazine, a separate business. We're not RDU suppliers, we don't sell shirts, towels, jackets, whatever. That's all done by a company that's independent but has a licence to do that. We're not Australian Rotary Health. All the health things we do, it's not Australian Rotary Health. Good organisations, they're all good organisations, but they're not part of Rotary International. They're separate organisations that do their own thing. And we're not Rorks, and we're not Romac, we're not Probus, we're not Interplus. People think Probus is run by Rotary. It's not. By some quirky fate of nature, the Probus Charter says that a Rotary club must nominate a new Probus club. But after that, they have nothing to do with it. And Rotary has nothing to do with it. It's just Probus. Up until recently, Rotary Down Under held the rights to the Probus trademarks. They've since transferred those to Probus. We're not Shelter Box or Disaster Aid or Shelter for Humanity, which is Tom Henderson's new business. We're Rotary. And we support all these organisations through the actions of the clubs. This is who we are. Frank Pezzamendi is our manager. We're split into, this is pretty standard, split into 4 divisions: finance, club and district support, the foundation and administration. We have Grace Ramirez, who's the finance manager, with 3 people there: Sally, Rosalind and Melissa. Past District Governor Jennifer Coburn is now our club and district support supervisor or manager. She has 2 people, Barbara and Mary Jane. I do the foundation with Mark Anderson and Chrissy. You've probably had a lot of contact with Chrissy on PHFs, and Lalita and Miley, who's just started on Monday, do the administration. So we're a pretty tight unit, but we're there to serve you people, and that's our whole ambition, is to make sure that you are getting the level of service that you require. We play different roles. We're trainers, coaches, advisors. We're part of your club and district team. We're there for your benefit. We do not make the policy. We help you understand them better, and we help you manage some of the problems that are created by them. So this is the club and district support. That's Jenny, Mary Jane and Barbara. They do the chartering of clubs, satellite clubs, Rotaract clubs, Interact clubs, community core. I'll keep this as brief. Club administration, change his name. All these things have to be done and have to be managed through a club activity. Learning and reference, finance team, Melissa, some of these are broken into specific areas of responsibility. Grace is the overall boss. Melissa does all the Australian contributions from clubs and individuals. Ros does all the Rotary International stuff from the Philippines, whether it be foundation or dues. Marissa's gone now. Sally does all the Rotary International from Australia and New Zealand. That just deals with dues and payments like that. Finance, they're all the things they do. I won't bore you by going through them all. Receipts and payments, an idea of the scale of it all. We get 3.3 in dues, we get 6.9 in the foundation, 1.9 in TAF, so we're taking in, over the course of a year, $12.1 million from clubs in our districts and our region. That's the Philippines, Australia and New Zealand. And the payments we make, none of the money leaves the country. We keep it here in a high interest earning bank deposit, and we use that to fund the various programs that Rotarians get involved in. So we're paying out a little bit more. You might think, how can we do that? If we run out of money, Evanston will send us some more. So we're here to provide the support to Rotary clubs in our region that are conducting grants and programs all throughout the region. A little bit about membership trends. It's running down in North America, up in South America, up in Africa, up in India, down in Japan and down in Australia and New Zealand. They're the trends. They're not growing in those areas where the arrows are pointing down. The Rotary Foundation, the foundation impacts on people's lives today. We are continually managing the process of making lives better for people, and we do that through the actions of clubs and through the actions of Rotarians, and that's the best way to make it. TRF is, the foundation is Rotary's only charity. It's our own charity. It's the charity that belongs to every Rotarian, and personal donations are tax deductible, just as your own trust is. This is the foundation team. We advise, it's me and Mark and Chrissy. We advise on foundation programs. We process the Paul Harris Fellows, and we contributions from the clubs and the club giving. I always say that it's far, far more important to use that money effectively than to get it. I mean, we can't use it if we don't get it. So it's important that we get clubs understanding that there are opportunities for them to make life better for people by using the money. 600,000 not-for-profits in Australia, about 60,000 are of economic significance. They're important. Saturation point, some of the celebrity charities are closing down. And there are aggressive tactics by many charities. We see that on a regular basis. All of the people in this room would give to a charity during the course of the year. I would defy anyone to say I'm wrong on that statement. Why not make the Rotary Foundation your charity of your choice? And I know you do that through some of your payments that you make on a regular basis. Administration and publications is some of the things that we do. Some just top 5 items that we sell through administration. The promotional card on Rotaract is the most popular item. Paul Harris Medallion is the next one. Rotary Basics, which is the story of what we do. This is Rotary and the Interact brochure, the foundation, every Rotarian, every year brochure, and blah, blah, blah. So there's some of the things that we do. There's a Paul Harris tree in Parramatta, planted by Paul Harris when he came in 1935. Next time you're in Sydney, see if you can find it. If you can't find it, I'll tell you where it is. So what I wanted to talk about now is the polio thing, and I appreciate you've got a time situation. We are this close. We keep talking about this close, but we are so terribly close. And we did make a promise. We made a promise to the world to eradicate polio. We had hoped to do it by the anniversary of Rotary Centenary in 2005. 2005, yeah, 1905, yeah. That didn't work, so we're looking at 2018. We believe polio will be eradicated by the end of this year, but there's another 3 years waiting period till you can certify it as being gone. So how close are we to meeting that promise? 1985, there were 350,000 cases of polio in the world. We've got rid of 99.94% of those cases, and that's a pretty significant achievement. And all through this, just remember, you are doing this. You are the people making this happen. Revisit the 80s. Now, in the 80s, when we had that 350,000 cases, 40 kids an hour, that represented 40 kids an hour were getting polio somewhere in the world, all over the place. The mortality rate amongst kids of 2 to 5%. The reality is 5% of kids that get polio will die. So if you put $100 into the Centenary program, say, that's this little blue thing here, it has the capacity to buy 140 vaccines, and 5% of that is 7, so that $100 is saving the lives of 7 kids. Maybe not true now when the cases are so low, but that's the way it was when we started, and that's the way we looked at it. Over 10,000 deaths a year. In 1925, 125 countries in 1988. That's the way it was. This is a meeting, a photograph of a meeting that was taken, a photograph that was taken in an airport lounge when Clem Renouf first spoke to some people that believed polio could be eradicated. Professor Huckstep, Bob Burnett on the left there, who was a PDG or a district governor from my district at that time, they met to talk about the possibility of setting up a program, a 3H program, that would prove polio could be done. In 1979, the following year, Bob Burnett was a member of RI's 3H committee, and in conjunction with Professor Huckstep, they set up a program in Malawi, the first immunisation program in Africa. And it was successful. A few years later, 1987, Royce Abbey, again another Australian of significance, challenged Rotarians in the Southeast Asia to attack the polio scourge by donating and getting things moving. Les Whitcroft contributed a significant amount of money to get this thing going, and that amount of money was $250,000 because he believed his wife had polio as a younger girl and never really recovered, and he believed it could be done. They set up the program in the Philippines to immunise every kid in the Philippines, and that eradicated polio from the Philippines and started people thinking about the possibility of a polio-free world. The World Health Organisation didn't believe Rotary when they said it could be done, but 5 years later they came begging with cap in hand to be part of what we were doing because it was working. The tenacity. We've had a long journey. We've had a long journey. Putting things into context, in 2000, there was a slump of 60% of the cases. It dropped from 400,000 down to 5,000 in 2001. Amazing. 2002, it soared back up to 2,000 cases. A decade without progress. If you look at that, it was a roller coaster up and down, and mainly because government's inability or lack of desire to get the job done. The governments of the world took their eye off the ball, and in spite of all the things we were doing, didn't give it the merit it desired. But if we look at the way things are now, in 2009 there was 1,600, 2010 1,349, 11 650, 2012 230, 223, 2013 414, and Pakistan had a role to play in that, and 214 down to 359. So we've come a long way in terms of getting rid of the disease. But the interesting thing is, the really interesting thing is where it remains, and it remains in one place only. If we look at the words fortitude, leadership, tenacity, stubbornness, stick-to-it-ability, will, persistence, doggedness, determination, obstinacy and resolve, all of those things apply to the Rotarians that got involved. You could call Rotarians all of those things because we refuse to give this fight up. We refuse to walk away. We refuse to stop believing it could be done. And we did get some considerable success. The Southeast Asia region has been declared polio-free. That is the region from the Philippines all the way around to India has been officially declared polio-free because they've had that 3-year period with no cases, and that's what we're looking for. Bruce Aylward, who's the leading authority on this through the United Nations, by the end of 2015, every country in the world should have stopped polio, and that's stopped transmitting it. We have to then wait for the period. Nigeria, there have been no cases this year, and Nigeria was thought to be uncurable because of the unrest in the northern regions and the tribal warfare. Afghanistan, there's been 1 case this year, and that was in January. The last case in Nigeria was July last year, and that's nearly 12 months since there has been no case. And once it gets to July this year and there's no case, Nigeria can be declared a non-endemic country, and then another 2 years it can be declared polio-free. Pakistan, 22 cases. Pakistan is our biggest hurdle. And now that that country has been isolated as the only country that's at risk, their government is starting to take a little bit of attention, and we're going to have some success in Pakistan. We need to keep working hard to make sure that the funding's available because the vaccinations have to go on. They have to go on until all of this has been gone for 3 years. But once it's gone, it can't come back. So we have to keep encouraging our Rotarians in those countries and our governments in those countries to keep up the pressure. You see the talk in this country about do we vaccinate or don't we vaccinate? Polio is only a plane ride away. We've got to keep our kids safe, and we've got to keep all kids safe in the world, because when you think about it, the only legacy we are going to leave our children or our next generation is our world. And that's something you could describe as maybe not being in the best of shape from time to time, but we've got to make sure our kids are healthy and educated and vocationally skilled and care enough to manage the legacy we leave them. So all the things we do as Rotarians, all the great things we do, and Darcy's talking about the Philippines, and you all talk about good things you do, whether it be in Timor or New Guinea or Philippines or India, or I go to India on a regular basis. We've got to keep doing those things because they just make such a difference to the lives of people and to the future generations. I would urge you, this club is highly supportive of the Rotary Foundation. You do a program that allows individuals to support personally. There's probably an opportunity for you to do that a little bit more aggressively in some cases and more strongly. I've got to tell you that that district on the dark side, that other side of the river, they've just announced an Arch Clump Society member who's fronting up $250,000 into the Rotary Foundation to become an Arch Clump Society member. And we're talking to another one, also on the dark side, to do that. I don't think you can let them get away with that. You've got to think about how you can counteract that audacious move by those people over there. It's my old district, but I think they're acting in a somewhat scurrilous manner by doing this without you. So give that some thought, because it's a great thing to do. I mean, none of us do what we do because you get a badge or a pin or a frame or a crystal. We do it because we know the value of what we do. And no one gives money unless they know it's being used well. And I can tell you, no one uses money better than the Rotary Foundation, because it's your money and we want to see it used well. Thank you very much for the opportunity. I really appreciate it, and I wish you well. Thank you.
What is this? Okay, don't worry about it. Rotarians, that was a marvellous pep talk from Bruce. I must say, I've been in and out of Rotary since 1971. I have never heard a Rotary information session like that, as convincing as that, in all that time that I've been in Rotary. Would anybody agree with me? Yeah. And for that, we've got a couple of little presents here. One is a Rotary Humanity in Motion, which is a bit like Coles to Newcastle. Wow! You mean you haven't read it? And the other is a bottle of red wine, which we express our gratitude to Bruce for having been here today.
Thank you very much. Very much appreciated.